All right, breaking down shoulder accessory movements, my favorite for strength versus hypertrophy. Let's dive on into it. What's going on, guys? Coach Joe here at the Lion's Den, and like I said previously in the intro, we're going to be talking about accessory movements that I really enjoy for building bigger and stronger shoulders. And the way that I want to break it up is do the first three on typically what you will see in a strength block that are my favorite, and then the second three typically what are my favorite for hypertrophy. So something when I'm trying to do more volume, more sets, just trying to put on muscle and look more aesthetically pleasing. So we're gonna get right into it, not waste your time, and we're gonna start off with the strength side of things. One disclaimer. I used to spend a ton of time wasting a lot of energy on doing so much accessory work. So if you find yourself in this position, I would just highly suggest you guys, if you're into strength training, okay, to minimize the amount of accessory work you're doing and focus still on the main movement. Not to say that accessory work is not needed at all. I think it is needed, but be careful with what you're picking and putting your time into. So let's get back to it. So the first movement on my list when it comes to building strength and is one of my favorite all-time shoulder movements is gonna be pin pressing. Now there are different variations of the pin press and different heights you can put it, basically anywhere you want from your shoulders or above. And typically what I like to do is gear it towards any of my weak areas. So if I'm having trouble with my lockout, I'm gonna set the pins higher up towards my forehead. Maybe if it's midway up, kind of around my nose. And if it's a little bit lower, maybe my chest, or chest, oops. I meant chin and chest. Chin. And the reason I like this is anytime you do a pin press, the pins don't lie. So you have to make sure that you have a good bar path, and if you put it down and you have to reposition your body, that means that your bar path is off. And you're also pushing it from a dead stop, which I like as well. So this is just a great way that you can also overload the movement. So if you have it at higher up, say your nose or your forehead, you're typically gonna be able to push more weight since it's a shorter range of motion. But I just think that in general, these are personally one of my favorite movements to put in my accessory work. So typically it'll be probably on day 3 or 4 of my training as a different variation of the overhead press. Number 2 on my list is going to be the push press. If you guys have been following my strength journey for a long time, you know I'm a big fan of doing push presses. And the reason is it's just the same thing as the overhead press, but you're gonna get that assistance of the leg drive. So it's gonna push you through any of those sticky points. And I just feel like it's really helped me long-term be able to get stronger shoulders and almost overload the movement as well from a normal strict press. Also in strongman, it's good to make sure that you have a strong push press, or like almost it's like my fail safe. So if my jerk starts going to crap, I can easily get into a rhythm of doing the push press. So for me personally, it's something that really helps me, especially in competition, and I really enjoy it. I like the way it makes me feel, gets my heart rate up a little bit, and I get a nice pump. Now the last one on my list in terms of strength that we're talking about is going to be the high incline bench press. You can use a close grip if you want, or a regular grip, depending if you want a little bit more triceps or not in there. But the high incline, I feel like really helps build the strength from off the chest in the press. And I see a lot of people who maybe excel through midway all the way to the end of the press, but they struggle just getting that couple inches off their chest and past their face. So doing the high incline bench press, whether it be normal or close grip, has really helped me personally get through that sticky point of off my chest, and a lot of the other athletes who I program for or I've seen. So now if you're trying to get those nice, thick, juicy shoulders, okay, and really make them pop, you're typically gonna be probably working more hypertrophy or some sort of higher volume block in your training. So if you haven't done that, I suggest you do try that at some point. But basically we're just talking about aesthetics right now. So my number 1 on the list for hypertrophy and aesthetics is going to be the face pull. Now, this is just a pretty basic movement, but I really like the way that it makes my shoulders feel, as well as my traps when I do face pulls. So start incorporating these if you're trying to get your traps to grow a little bit and get the shoulders to blow up and make yourself look a little bit wider. Also, typically for the face pull, you're gonna wanna have that higher volume, like I said. So I go anywhere from about 10 to 15 reps when I'm doing face pulls, and you wanna really make sure that you're keeping a nice smooth pull, not using too much body language, and I think the more strict you can do it, the better off you're gonna be with this. Number 2 on my list for hypertrophy and shoulders is going to be the side delt raise. If you've been in the Lion's Den, or maybe you've watched some of my older videos, I always throw these in at some point during the week. Actually, no matter what phase of training I'm in, just because I love getting the pump in the side shoulders or the side delts, and it just feels phenomenal, and it's gonna really help fill out your shoulder as a whole. Most of the time when we're doing a lot of pressing, it's gonna be the front delt that's just gonna get bigger and bigger. So we gotta make sure that we take care of the entire shoulder in itself. So we gotta make sure we hit the fronts, the sides, and the rear. So this is hitting the side delt. Like I said, anywhere again, higher volume, you can do sets, 3 to 4 sets, anywhere from 8 to 15 reps. For each side. You can do it with dumbbells or cable, but this is something that I always am hitting, and just find myself really enjoying this movement. Same thing with this, as I mentioned with the face pulls, try to keep it as strict as possible without using too much body language. I know it's tempting to go heavier and kind of get that little heave going, but just keep the weight low and make sure you're doing it as strict as possible, and you're gonna find some really good results if you do it this way. So the last one on my list in terms of aesthetics, one of my all-time favorites, and if you're in the gym, at the Den, you see me doing these in the corner every Friday. So sometimes it's hard to always take that aesthetic, bodybuilder mindset out of me, but it's gonna be rear delt flies. And rear delt flies kind of just wrap up the whole shoulder together by giving you that rear delt almost like cap to the shoulder look. And that's what comes from hitting the rear delts. It's gonna make your arms look bigger as well. So I like doing these for 3 to 4 sets, and I'll do anywhere from 10 to 15 reps with a higher volume. And like I said, with all the other movements, keep it as strict as possible. But this is just an exercise that you want to have in there if you're trying to make yourself look bigger, get those shoulders to be nice and capped looking, as the bodybuilders would say. But these are kind of like my all-time 3 favorite movements for hypertrophy. Now, when it comes to the shoulder and whole, I find that in total sets, you want to be anywhere from 10 to 20 sets throughout the week. So however you want to break that up is fine. Typically I like to do a heavy, medium, and light day. So on the lighter days when I'm going to have more volume and kind of smaller muscle group movements like the rear delt stuff, the side delts, whatever, on a heavier days when I'm gonna do my main pressing movement. So that's kind of a way you can help integrate that with your programming for the shoulders. And I'm gonna be putting out a programming video in the future that'll dive way more deeper into that. So be on the lookout for that video as I explain that. But I think too often people don't hit the shoulders enough if they're trying to get them to grow. And if they're trying to look more aesthetic, they need to be hitting that more than once a week. So I'd say the frequency you probably wanna have 3 times a week for the shoulders, anywhere between that 10 and 20 total sets throughout the week if you're trying to really get some gains in the shoulders. So hopefully that helped you guys, and it gave you guys a little bit of insight on what I like to do personally. Again, this is my opinion on what has just helped me in my progress, what has helped my shoulders grow the most and look the best for what we got here, and maybe you can implement that into your program. But if you guys have any questions with programming, feel free to shoot me over an email. I take a lot of custom programming clients and I help them out a lot. And it's just sometimes better when you have a coach who can help you and kind of just take care of that stuff and you just do the work and get the results. But until then, guys, be a lean, mean strength machine. Stay on the lookout for that programming video. And we still have a couple spots left for the pressing clinic that'll be here August 24th. So I'll put a link down below if you want to sign up for that. Very cheap, but it's going to help with building a stronger press and doing the jerk variations as well, which I really think is gonna help you guys, especially if you're trying to be competitive in any strength sports. All right, peace.